So it's not very often I watch Tubi originals, honestly. The Tubi originals that I have seen on there never look very promising. But I did like the cover of this one. So I was making food. I have a little, tablet, and I just threw it on while I was making food for everybody. And so this one is about a girl who's assaulted and she's impregnated, and the killer tells her, like, I'm gonna basically, like, if you get rid of my kid, I'm gonna kill you and whatever. So she's carrying the baby and she's living in fear for like 9 months, and she is now a volunteer crisis hotline operator, and she is just living, this life of fear. Now, this is not an original concept. This is definitely something I've seen done in quite a few movies at this point. But I was really struck while I was watching this movie. I will say this out the gate. I did like the movie. It definitely reminded me of like a Lifetime movie, but a little bit better. I shouldn't say a little bit better. It's actually quite a bit better, but it will have a Lifetime feel to it for some people. But I think I was actually kind of impressed with this one is I thought the movie actually looked great. It had a pretty good production value to it, and I thought that the performance from the lead actress was actually really good. And she's what carries the movie because we spend 99% of the time with her. So I was emotionally invested in the story. And as far as like where it goes, in the end, I thought it was going to go one place. And I thought that this was going to be very preachy about like anti-abortion. I definitely thought that this was going to go, and I was going to roll my eyes a bit. But that is definitely not where this film goes. And I actually really liked the ending. I have questions, of course, and I think there is a little bit of a breakdown of some bit of logic only because of certain bits of information that we learn throughout the film. But I don't think it's so outside of the realm of possibility that I had to just like completely disconnect my brain to accept it. It was just one of those things where it's like, well, that would be really tough, but I guess not impossible. So I did get a good fist pump out of it, and I absolutely think this is a good female empowerment example here of a film. And there's this song that plays in this movie. I'm assuming it's probably like public domain. It's a lower budgeted film, and I'm sure they couldn't afford. They probably found it creepy. I didn't find it creepy. I found it grating. I found it to be super annoying, and it's that like Mama's Gonna Buy You a Mockingbird song, but sung a little differently and by this girl who's singing, and it sounds like she's like either deaf or mentally handicapped. Like, I can't honestly tell. The singing is so poor, it almost feels like a joke. But it plays multiple times throughout the film, and it is super annoying. But as I said, I think it's used intentionally to be like disruptive and kind of put you in an uneasy place because of how like annoying it is. So I get the intention of it, and I guess it did serve its purpose because I was annoyed. But it didn't add to tension. It more made me like, ugh, I don't like this song. This is super annoying. Shut it off. So maybe it didn't have the absolute effect that it was going for. But her conversations, she has one in particular with one specific person. Then there's a bunch of like other random little calls that only last like a minute or something. And we see all the different, kinds of people that she deals with. Some are like very basic, and it's like rolling your eyes, like no one cares. Then there's a couple other people like where their problems are pretty bad, but they're not super terrible. Then there's some people that are like, oh my God, this is horrible. And then there's some creeps, of course. So it does a good job of kind of showing and illustrating like all the different kinds of people that she's going to come across. As far as the like antagonist of the movie, he actually has a really cool look to him. He does wear a mask like a slasher, and I actually really, really liked the outfit look of this killer. He kind of reminded me a bit of like maybe the Babadook, which is kind of odd, but I was a fan of that. So, um, if you are someone for some reason, I know probably most of my audience wouldn't be into Lifetime movies, but if you're like a Lifetime fan, then this would be perfectly up your alley. If you wanted like a higher quality Lifetime movie, this is it right here, because it I don't know. I just thought in the end, I was like, oh, cool. It's nothing great, honestly, but I actually was pretty surprised by how much I did like this. I threw it on thinking it was going to be just like a time waster in the background to fill up the air while I was doing something. And I ended up really paying attention to it because I was pretty invested in our main character and her plight. So it's a recommendation. As I said, it's a female empowerment movie, so it might be more geared towards women, but I'm a man. I enjoyed it, so it's not impossible. But if you're someone who's like doesn't like seeing movies about rape victims dealing with their killer who's still stalking after them and that kind of stuff, because they do make a good amount of movies like this. I can think of like 10 off the top of my head that have a super similar premise to this. But it's a good movie, for a Tubi original. I don't know how many Tubi originals I've watched. I watched the Terror Train remakes, like the remake and its sequel, and those are not good. But somehow I still like enjoyed them despite how bad they were. And honestly, like every Tubi original I see looks awful, and I just don't bother. But this one looked different, and I'm glad that I checked it out. So it is only on Tubi. It's the only place you could find it since it is an original. And as you know, Tubi is free, so you don't got to pay nothing for Tubi. And Tubi is awesome. I can't recommend it high enough for any horror fans out there. So there you go. Tubi, check it out if you want. Let me know.